Good evening, friends, Yin on Fire family. We are so excited that you're here tonight to meet Rachel Gubler, and her topic is the messages within your eyes. What if your eyes could show you the stories your body's been trying to tell? In this workshop, you'll get a grounded introduction to holistic iridology, a tool for interpreting the emotional, physical, and generational patterns that reveal themselves through the iris. Now, who is Rachel Gubler? Well, she's someone I've known for several years and love learning from. Every topic or concept that she teaches, she goes into depth and it's so inspiring and she's so passionate about it. She is a women's wellness coach, speaker, and holistic health educator who guides women through the often dismissed spaces of their lives. Known for her fierce, grounded presence, Rachel creates safe community spaces where women can trust their truth, reclaim the power they were taught to dismiss, and rise rooted in their worth and voice. Through her coaching, storytelling, and embodied transformation, she helps illuminate what has been hidden so deep healing can take root and lasting change becomes possible. I'd like to turn the time over to tonight's presenter, Rachel Gubler.
Thank you so much, Angel. It's so fun to be with all of you here tonight. This is fun because I normally am speaking to just a group of women, so it's fun to have some men in here. And what I'm saying tonight applies to everyone. That's one of the fun things about iridology. It is pronounced like eyes, iridology, not iridology. The man I learned from, Dr. David Pesic, he was very particular about that. Iridology, not iridology. Um, he actually just recently passed away earlier this year, so that feels very sad. And he was a great mentor to me. Um, so I just want to do, I know Angel gave me an intro already, but I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about why I'm here today telling you about iridology, because it's kind of like, has anybody here actually heard of iridology before? I'm curious. I've got some shakes, I've got a few hands up. All right, has anybody actually had it done before? Raise your hand if you've had it done before. Oh, wonderful. You guys will have an opportunity later. I'm I don't want to give too much away. Well, I'll save it. I'll save it for later. But it's this really fun thing. I was actually first introduced to iridology when I was like 16. I worked at a store in Las Vegas called Herbally Grounded. They're a great herb shop. I love them, still use them to this day. And their founder would talk about face reading all the time. And she'd talk about how, like, oh, if stuff is happening right here, acne, your liver is needing some attention. And if something's happening right here, it's your heart. And if something's right here, it's your lungs. And if you've got acne around your, the tip of your forehead or on your hairline, that's your colon asking for some help. There's also some like quirky things about it, like if your ears stick out like mine do, then supposedly you're more musically inclined. There's this one time where the owner of Verbally Grounded came in and I was working a shift and she goes, "Oh, Rachel, hi, how's it going? Oh, by the way, you should play a musical instrument." And her daughter came in with her and she said, "Mom, Rachel plays the piano and the flute. She already knows this." And she goes, "Oh, okay." She would just pop in and say these funny things and just like give you like quick face reads all the time, especially if you were a staff member working there. And so that was one of my first introductions to what, like, to paying attention to like what our body might be doing to be talking to us, which is kind of hilarious because I actually got really good at ignoring my body for many years. I'm here teaching this class tonight because when I was in high school, I thought I could just push through and only survive on 4 or 5 hours of sleep because academics is what matters when you're 16. I experienced heavy adrenal fatigue in my second year of high school, so much that I like dropped out of I didn't drop out, but I transferred to a different school that wasn't as competitive and spent some time recovering. And it went well. And then back when I'm in college and serving a mission for the church I grew up in, that time came around. And guess what I did again? I just pushed through and was not listening to my body at all. I was only focused on what I am trying to accomplish. Let's prove my worth. I got things to do so people know I mean business, so they know I care, so they know I matter. So I think I matter. And what do you think that did? I crashed out again. This time I got diagnosed with chronic anxiety and social anxiety. And so I spent some time recovering. Then I healed just enough to go out and date and get married and then have 2 kids. And we're a few years down the road. And guess what? I realized again, this is not working for me. Maybe I should pay more attention. That's when I started getting certified in therapeutic nutritional counseling. And that's when I went and studied iridology. I'm going to share my screen just because I think pictures are fun. Actually, this is what I'm going for. Here we go. You guys already know the intro. We don't need to spend time there. But this is me. It's not showing. Are you kidding me? That's not okay. Well, that was a picture of me and Dr. Pesic, but let me make sure my other images are working. Okay, that one is. Never mind, you're not meant to see that picture. Not finding the universe on that one. But I'm here because I had that pattern of push and pull, and I knew that our body, you know, there's a map of your body on your ears, on your eyes, on your face, on your hands, on your feet. These are all different therapies that people have used throughout the year or throughout the years, millennium, to access different parts of our body. Some of it to help heal, like acupressure, and some of it to help pay attention to what's going on, like the face and the eyes, to see what part of our body is trying to communicate to us. And really, I'm here with you tonight because I was stuck in that pattern. And ironically, I was not paying attention to my body, but looking for ways to support my mental health. Isn't that so funny that I thought my mental health and my physical health were just so separate? I did. So even though I grew up in the holistic health world, I was actually not familiar with listening to my body. And actually working with Angel was a very crucial piece of me reconnecting to that. Very crucial piece. And then deep diving into the menstrual cycle and hormones and realizing, oh, there's some science to back up what I'm experiencing in my body. Wait, I'm not crazy. And then acting on the wants and needs that my body was guiding me towards has been the most life-changing things. And when we use the map of our body on our eyes to navigate that, game changer. Okay, so I'll stop teasing you a little bit. So with iridology, even I'm so passionate about women's health, but men and women have kind of been cut off from listening to our body. It's not something we're well versed in. And so what I'm so passionate about is helping everyone, specifically women, but everyone, listen to what their body is trying to tell them. And iridology is a super cool way to tap into that body wisdom, because it's like this bird's eye view we have of this map. Really quickly, before we officially get into like deep diving and into all the information, I really like honoring our bodies by taking a second to check in or set an intention for this next, like, we'll say like 30 minutes, because I'll try to make mentally not run over time. If you will just take a minute to write down your intention for today, it could be checking in with your body and just being more in tune with it. It could be, hey, I just want to show up active and alert for this. Or, hey, I want to make sure that I'm listening while I'm cooking dinner. Or it could be, what are you wanting to accomplish or get out of today's session? I'll tell you two of my intentions. I've got twofold. One, to help you realize on another level just how cool your body is. There's so much in here. I actually struggled to like limit it down, and stay for the end if you can to the link, because I want to give you so much more than I can in this time, and I will if you want it. And then two, you'll gain another tool tonight to use and utilize the information that is your body is waiting for you to access. It's actually so dang cool. I'm so excited. I know I'm putting you guys on the spot, but could I get 2 volunteers who'd be willing to share what their intention is for this meeting tonight? If you don't want to unmute, you can type it in the chat, but please unmute if you want to. Heather, yes. Oh, you'll need to unmute yourself.
I've just been working on my health a lot lately, and it's always a mystery because doctors don't, you know how doctors are. So just my intention tonight is to just find a new way to access parts of my body so I can heal them, because I know what parts need to be healed, but I don't know how to do. I mean, I've tried all the modalities, and so this is a new thing for me. So that's pretty much why I'm here.
Perfect, Heather. I love that. Thank you so much for being here and for being so curious about what's going on with your body, that desire to take care of it. That's very admirable, and I'm very glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right, one more. Yes, Anne.
So you've got 3, Rachel, just in case.
Instead of first here too. and struggling to unmute. We'll go to Jennifer. If you figure it out, we'll come back. If not, we'll say thank you. Jennifer, what about you?
So my intention is just actively listening to you and just like taking a lot of new knowledge. I'm in my journey of like really being in tune with my body, like Heather shared, and just right now I'm cycle syncing with foods just to kind of balance out my hormones. So I'm just really interested to see what else I can learn to kind of tune it in and just be on my tip-top healthiest shape. So I'm just really excited for something so new and so different. I feel like something like this is not education that everyone has, like, you know, at their fingertips. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's so not like it feels like this new thing, but it's been around for well over 3,000 years and used regularly. And so it kind of feels like I love finding that information that feels like we're kind of tuning back into our ancestors and some of our like body wisdom. Well, obviously our body wisdom because it's coming from our body. Our eyes are this beautiful part of our nervous system that is giving us information and is being interpreted by the brain. So it's this like we're getting there are monitors to look into that hard drive to see what's going on, what programming is in there. It's so cool. And you got unmuted. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little weird with the I'm on an iPad, so I don't know. Anyway, yes, no, I'm just always into learning something new, and this sounds so interesting to me, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Perfect. Thank you for being here.
And I'll volunteer for whatever thing you want to do at the end too.
Oh,
Hopefully,
perfect.
I'll be able to unmute myself. Bye.
No worries. Wonderful. All right, let's get into sharing this screen so that we can start diving into it. Okay. So I wanted to start with this image first because I feel like you can't fully understand iridology without understanding that while it's like a map of our body on our eyes, it is also at the same time a bird's eye view of what might happen if we continue on the path that we are. It's all about genetic expression. Do things change in the eyes? Yes. They change slowly though, unless it's the whites of your eyes, your sclera, that also holds important information. I love to use the sclera and the iris together, but today we're just talking about the iris, the colored part of your eyes. And so it's almost like you've got these birds that are flying over and your iris is this beautiful Amazon forest with rivers. And this bird's eye view lets you know, okay, it's going to get rocky here if we keep being in this environment. Okay, we're going to have a drop off if we continue these thought patterns. Okay, we're going to, there's a weakness here. We've got to choose, make some decisions in here. It's this glorious thing where while it's both a map, it is also a way to see problems happening far ahead of time. I'll give you some examples of that when we have visuals for the future, but I want you to, if you could think of it visually, yes, it's a map of our body, but it's also this, like you're looking down and seeing, if I continue, this is what's happening. Because remember, this is genetic information that has also been passed down. It's a combination of genetic information and some of our lived experience. And if we continue in the same physical environment, mental, emotional, spiritual environment, we know what will show up. We are not victims to it, but it is such actual crucial information. For me, when I first found out about some of these, actually, I'm not gonna give that example yet. Sorry, I don't want to get in my head of myself. I will share that story a little bit later. But let's jump to 3 key areas that iridology focuses on. And I could list like technically 9 different areas, but I'm going to start with 3 so that I'm not overwhelming you folks. And if you want more, let me know. We can do a part 2 that goes even deeper, or I'll do more. I don't know. It's so fun, guys. It's so fun. Okay, so step 1 area that we're focusing on is color. I have a really weird fact for you about eyes. Did you know there's actually only technically, according to iridology, there's only 3 colors of eyes. There's a beautiful expression of eyes, but we've got, actually, I've got visuals. Okay, we've got blue eyes. This is called a lymphatic constitution, but blue eyes. A lot of them look like this. We can get variations of bright blue eyes that have more white in it. And while that does give us important information, it also is gorgeous. This is the thing I wanted all of you to know as you are looking at these eyes, and you're probably gonna be like, oh, my eye looks like this one or like this one. Or I've noticed some of those lines in mine or that type of line. I want you to know every eye is absolutely perfect. And I've also never seen a perfect eye. Every eye is meant to be exactly as it is. They are so unique. There is nothing wrong with you if I'm saying, oh, look, you've got this spot here. This is what it means is going on in your body. That does not mean something is wrong with you. Your eyes are also this beautiful symphony that is telling a story, both of what your ancestors have been through, what you've been through, and what you could experience or could not experience. It is not this rigid thing that you are a victim to. And just because something is going on in your eyes does not mean your eyes are ugly. They are absolutely perfect. Super, super blue eyes are going to have a lot of white in it. And that indicates something specifically about our lymphatic system. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. And so some people could look at that and be like, oh no, I'm not taking good care of my lymphatic system. Oh no. Or we can think, wow, that's really gorgeous. And this is what I get to experience, and translate it from this like, oh no, I need to fix myself, to, oh, my eyes are telling me what I'm going to experience. But also through this freaking gorgeous art. Can you see the beauty in that? All these beautiful fibers. Did you know that it got so intricate? It probably looks really weird. Most people, when I show this, are like, that's okay. But it's a beautiful work of art. Okay, blue eyes. So one thing I want you to know about blue eyes, actually, is physically, blue-eyed people have a tendency to have mucus arising from an overactive lymphatic system. Their immune system might be overactive. These are generalizations. So I just want you to know that these are generalizations. They're more prone to infections of mucous membranes. They have more vulnerable tissues in the tonsils, adenoids, upper respiratory system, lungs, sinuses, GI tract, the lining of the stomach, intestines, and joints. They are more prone to skin afflictions. Skin on the eyes is out here. Lymphatic system is kind of inside a little bit, and then also around this thing, this wavy thing is called the collarette. I'll quiz you later, just kidding, I won't. But it's around the collarette. So skin we would see on the outside of the eyes, but they're more common to see skin afflictions such as psoriasis, eczema, dandruff, dry skin, arthritis, rheumatic disorders, stiffness and aching muscles. And then they're also more prone to experiencing kidneys being overstressed, adrenal weakness, thyroid insufficiency, and digestive weakness. That might sound like a lot going on, but generally, if you were to do nothing else and just be like, okay, I have blue eyes, these are where I'm going to be more weak, let me work on that. Honestly, we could make a lot of progress with that. I think we could go way, 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 way deeper, actually, like so much deeper. But that in itself could be a good standing point to say, okay, I've got blue eyes. I need to focus more on my lymphatic system, my immune system, and kidneys, maybe my adrenals a little bit. Focused on that, you could put yourself in a great spot to make sure some genetic expressions aren't happening. But let's go to color number 2. Brown eyes. These are also called hematogenic eyes. These ones are fun. They're actually, couldn't find a picture myself, but brown eyes can get like where the whole eye is as dark as this pigment here. Like it gets so dark and they're so beautiful. You actually have blue fibers underneath all this brown pigment. Did you know that? Everybody has blue fibers underneath. So technically we all have blue eyes. Just kidding, kind of. And so there's variations in brown eyes, and there's actually some different strategies for reading some parts of the brown eyes because of how thick the pigments can get. It's actually really cool. The people with brown eyes have physical predispositions toward liver and gallbladder congestion, iron metabolism dysfunction, glandular disorders, having varicose veins, digestive disturbances, but this is more due to the liver, whereas with the blue eyes, digestive disturbances are more due to the pancreas, and then having arteriosclerosis. So that's what some of the brown eyes are predisposed to. These things you're seeing here, I'll talk more about them in a little bit further down, but these are pigments on the eyes. These pigments can be something that genetically shows up, or specifically, like, I think it's up to like age 6, but I think sometimes it can continue to grow. But there's not a lot of research on that. So that's just a hypothesis by Rachel. these pigments will show up after birth as well. They can still develop over time. So these are some really interesting ones to pay attention to. You can see the colorette looks a little different with this brown eye because of all the different pigmentations. And that's just something we always pay attention to. So color-wise, we've got blue and we've got brown. Any guess what the next one is? Hazel or green eyes, which is actually just the scientific way of, or biliary is the scientific way of saying a combination of blue and brown eye traits. The most common eye color is actually brown. I see more brown. I see a lot of blue as well. I'll show you another example of biliary or hazel green eyes later. It can look so different. And this is one where I see people with biliary eyes really sometimes. Okay, I have biliary eyes. This is actually my eye. And I love my green eyes. Sometimes I feel like you can see different shades in it based on what I'm wearing. And when I found out that it's like, you're just a combination of brown and blue, I was just like, okay, thanks. That's not that special. But actually, there's so much diversity that can happen with these ones. So much. And you can see the pigments sometimes look a little different. I only have like one strong one on this one. The depth, like the density of the color actually tells us a lot. That is also just as important as the size of it and where it's located. Oh, but I'll read about the biliary eyes traits as well. I almost forgot, sorry. They are, for physical tendencies that they are more likely to experience are digestive disturbances from both pancreas and liver, if I'm being honest. Liver and gallbladder congestion, pancreatic insufficiencies, and intestinal immune deficiency. So really there's a lot more going on digestion, generally speaking, with biliary people. So focusing on their pancreas, liver, and digestion, where for brown eyes, it's a little bit more of liver, gallbladder, blood. Those are generalizations, but it's kind of amazing how often those go together. Okay, let's keep going. You can call your eyes whatever you want. Ah, I did it wrong. Dang it. Okay, well, you know part 2 as well. No, I just got out of order. Never mind, brain fart. Okay, we're on number 2, constitution now. We went through color, now we're going through constitution. So what does constitution mean in the iris? So I'm painting it black and white today, strong constitution or weak constitution. But when I give people feedback on what I'm seeing in their eyes, I rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 of the strength of their constitution. So when we're looking at constitution, we're looking at how tight and how straight the fibers are in eyes. So if you can see, the fibers are, there's a little wavy, but they're actually pretty straight. It's not often that you see it like completely straight all the way. Oh, I have seen that once or twice, but this is a pretty common strong constitution look. These lines, these are called contraction furrows. Not that you have to remember that, but those actually only show up in strong constitutions. If you've got a weaker constitution, that does not show up. It is not a trait that shows up mentally, emotionally, or physically. Just interesting. One of the things that I think is so cool about strong constitution people is they have a tendency to be able to do a lot and push their body a lot. The con of that is they also have a tendency to be super surprised when their body just suddenly stops working again. Anybody recognize that in my pattern in the story at the beginning here? Yeah. If you related to that, you probably have a strong or stronger constitution where you'll be pushing your body and then randomly you're like, where did this adrenal fatigue came from? That feels so out of left field. I thought it was fine 2 weeks ago. That means we actually, with people with strong constitutions, can deal with a lot, can shoulder a lot, push through a lot, but also we kind of have like no warning signs when it happens because our body can just handle it until it doesn't. So that's what we look for in strong constitutions. People with weak constitutions, this does not mean you're a weak person or you have poor health automatically. It does not mean that. I have actually met some people who have weaker constitutions, but they are so intentional with how they take care of their body because they are actually so much more aware, like they are more connected. Their body is more sensitive. Therefore, they get more feedback. And so they have more of a dynamic with their body. So when we're talking weak constitution, we're seeing more of these holes. They're called lacunas, and more width in between some of these fibers. Can you see how there's lots of these lacuna things? You can see deeper. It's like there's this first layer here, but you can see like 3 or 4 layers down into some of these areas. You can see some of the depth. Whereas on the previous one, you can see, you can't tell that there's other layers down there. Can you see some of that difference? And like the only like lacuna that this person has, that little hole is like right there, really a little bit right there, like tiny, tiny. Whereas this one has lots of it, lots of depth. It does also make for a beautiful eye though. But people with weak constitutions have been some of my favorite people to work with as clients because they get feedback so quickly for what their body is doing. One of the first people I ever took a picture of that had a weak constitution was a friend, and we were talking about it. And when I first met them, they did this thing where they talk about, oh, I can't drink milk because as soon as I drink dairy or milk, suddenly like I feel it in my throat and it like I start to get like this mucus buildup thing. I was like, huh, that's weird. I've never experienced that before. Like they were so sensitive to when they put dairy in their body, like that first alarm system goes off really quick. Turns out my body is actually kind of sensitive to dairy too. I can have some, but I have like a limit. And I only know when I've hit the limit when my stomach and digestive system is telling me something. Like I am not that sensitive. I've had to work on becoming more sensitive. So while it might sound bad to have a weak constitution because your body is more sensitive, there's also a really gift to that because often these people are more connected to their bodies, kind of out of survival mode because they've had to be, they've had no other choice, but it's actually a really beautiful connection they have with their body. And so again, this isn't weak or strong. I usually rate this on like a scale of 1 to 10. But really it's more like a scale of 3 to 7 or 8 because I've never seen anybody that counts as like absolutely perfect because if then they'd have no issues. And also why are we here for not learning and growing? The third key area that we focus in iridology is variables on the map. So I'm going to show you what the map looks like. It's blurry. I tried to find a better picture, but a lot of it is copyrighted. And honestly, they put a lot of work into these. So if you want to get a better quality map, if you'd like to, because I'm going to give you instructions, you'll get instructions from me on how to take pictures of your own eyes. Go and find I highly suggest finding a chart to go by. Sometimes they're like 15 bucks, maybe 10. And it's so nice to have it to use. I've got this ginormous one that I use. You probably don't need one this big, but it's definitely more clear. It's easier to reference. And honestly, the people that put this together have put a lot of hard work in. So I would just urge you to consider that. So this is what it looks like. And you'll see the right eye is technically on the left for us because when I'm looking into Angel's eyes or Heather's eyes, I'm seeing your right eye on my left. So it's like if you were looking at the pictures turned around. So that's why it's like that. Oh, there's so much we could talk there. We could come back there if we need to. So I wanted to show you some of the variables I'm looking for when I'm doing an iridology reading. Some of the things I'm always looking for are pigments. So this is a right eye. Do you know? No, I'm not going to tell a joke. Never mind. I was going to tell a joke. My professor used to be like, do you know the difference between if it's a female or male eye? I guess I'm telling it because then I felt awkward about stopping mid-sentence. And he joked that it's the mascara because honestly, you can't tell a difference. You just have the you just have the eyes, but you can kind of tell which eye it is based on how the like eyelids are based or how where the pupil is looking a little bit more towards the nose, just tiny bit, or just ask me because I've looked at these eyes so many times that I can tell. But those are the things I'm looking at. It's not like I can look at this and be like, this is clearly a right eye because it's just those factors. So I'm always looking at pigments and we're looking at where it is. So this liver pigment is in the right eye in the brain area. So that's telling me, okay, we might need to pay attention to that. We've got another liver pigment. It's a tiny one down there. These dark brown ones are liver, and that one is actually in the adrenal area, right? So adrenals down here. I think that's out of the kidneys. Yeah, that's in the bladder. This one's in the bladder area. Sorry, I have it mostly memorized, but not 100%. So I'm always looking at those, just because it tells us information about the liver, but also tells us the adrenals area, if it has a pigment in it, then that's going to be a little bit of a weaker area in general. So this tells us, okay, maybe definitely need to pay attention to the liver some. That's a dense pigment. This is small, but it's dense. So that's telling us we need to pay attention to, yes, to both the liver and the adrenals. And then I'll look for where these lacunas are, because those also give us information about how the body is doing in different areas. And so you can see we've got a lacuna down here in the kidneys area. This is the kidneys. And I think this over here is actually, is that the liver? Yeah, this is the liver area. So you see we've got a liver pigment and we've got lacunas in the liver. This is a person that's going to need to pay a lot of attention to their liver. That's kind of the eyes telling us, hey, we really need to pay attention there. And then we kind of look like, this could seem like coloring, but this is a little bit more indicative of them being a biliary eye. We've got that light pigment on there, which mostly tells us, hey, this is a combination of brown eyes. There is a tendency to hold on to toxins, specifically in the colon and the lymphatic system, because inside this collarette is your entire small and large colons, small and large intestine, sorry, large intestine is a colon. And you can see how that pigment kind of hugs that collarette. That tells us our lymph and colon needs support with detoxing. This is a body that's going to have a tendency to hold on to that. It's not the end of the world. Plenty of people's bodies do that, but we want to pay a little more attention to that. Let's look at what we'd look at this eye. So with this one, contraction furrows are something that are really cool to pay attention to. Again, only show up in stronger genetic eyes. But these are not so much as important like on where they are in the map as like how many you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This person has 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of 5 if that one. That's kind of a lot. So that's something I pay attention to. But right here we've got radial furrows is what these ones are called. You guys don't have to remember the names of these. They're kind of weird, but that's what they're called. And actually some iridologists are trained differently, and the same exact thing is given different names. My professor like gave us the different names, but the more standardized one he gave us. So anyways, heaven help us, because I'm not remembering all those names. But these radial furrows also, it's like a little bit of a dip in the iris structure. So it's like straight dip and then goes down. So kind of like a lacuna, it goes down deeper. And so this tells us where, for the colon, it tells us where we have a tendency to attract more toxins in. But then in the various parts of the body, it tells us where those might be a little weaker. So this one has a few in the brain area. Now there are specific brain areas, but that's where we're getting like super technical. So I'm not gonna like bring that up exactly. This one again is a right eye. And so this line right here is actually going through the pancreas area or pancreas and ovary area. So for this person, I'd be like, okay, let's check in on those along with the brain area. We have another pancreas spot over here. And this pigment we've got right here is, yes, in the brain area, but that's actually a pancreas pigment. It's a lighter orange or a darker orange. We have 3 main pigments that we pay attention to. We've got the dark brown, which is for the liver. We've got the dark orange, which is for the pancreas. We've also got light orange, which is for the pancreas. And they can indicate different things going on in the pancreas, because pancreas helps with blood sugar, but it also helps with digestion. So the darker orange is going to have to do more with that left my brain. Oh my goodness. That's really embarrassing. I will find that in a second. No, I got this. Dark orange has more to do with digestion, and light orange has more to do with blood sugar. Sorry, sometimes nerves gets me too, folks. So this one only has a tiny pigment, but because of the radial furrows going through some of those pancreas areas, along with that pancreas pigment, that tells us a pancreas is actually an area we need to look into. And sometimes people with stronger genetics, we need to pay attention to some of the smaller details. Granted, this pancreas pigment is not super dense, so it's something more like we just need to pay attention to. I'm not too worried about the brain area, but that would connect and tell some other information. I'll get back to that later. But then we also look and see if there's any, you see how we've got this line that's going through. I'm trying to trace it so that makes sense. It's not kind of going up and down, or it's not the same pattern. It's kind of got this vertical going against the grain. That's another area of the body that we would pay attention to and say, hey, that's, granted, you might not see that. Usually you can't see that without the microscope camera. I have a microscope camera that I took this one with. But that one's going to be going through like the kidney, but then through the prostate or uterus area, then through the bladder a little bit. So we'd kind of check in on that area because genetically speaking, that's going to be a challenge area if it's not maintained or given attention. This one, I just wanted to show what another blue eye could look like, but with some different pigments. Now, this one is still a stronger constitution, but can you see how there's a little bit more width in between some of these fibers? So this was the person that I'd put more around like the 4 area, maybe 5. I probably actually do still 4 for this, whereas the previous one you saw, I would have called that like a 3 or a 2.5 with how strong it is constitution-wise. So strong constitution, but we've got some areas that's going to be like the thyroid area over here. And again, we've got some of these pigments, but look how light some of these pigments are. It's like, those ones we kind of like keep an eye on, but don't take too seriously. Whereas this one more up here. Okay, so we got to pay attention to pancreas, like specifically digestion wise. Okay, we got that. And you can notice there's not as many contraction furrows. It's still strong enough genetic constitution, but also their body doesn't quite use as many minerals. Their mind isn't racing quite as much as somebody else with some of the contraction furrows. All right. This is another example of a different brown eye that has some of those liver pigments. Oh, this is the same one from before, but I wanted to show the pigments because they can look so different. And they actually make isn't it so crazy that something that we can consider bad, oh, that means something's going on with my liver. Oh no, but it actually makes your eyes very beautiful. I love the contrast of that. And it's really just information our body is trying to give us. Okay, so with iridology, you know how I called it like a map? Well, now I'm also going to call it like a book, right? It's like we're reading a book. What I just took you through is only addressing physical ailments. It's like we took an herbal remedy book and we're reading about how to support our body. That alone of itself is super helpful. For many years, people have only used iridology. I think there was even a guy in St. George I heard, although I never met him, who had an herb shop and people would come in and he'd read their eyes and tell them what herbs would be supportive for their body. That in of itself is a beautiful thing to know what herbal support your body could use so that you're not going to go down that genetic road that would lead to some of these more severe things. Because once it's showing up in the eyes, you have time to address it. If it's showing up severely in the eyes, you need to take it very seriously because that means it has been developing for many years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We get such early warning signs with iridology that I love. That's part of the reason I love it, because we can get a further glance into what our health is doing. Like lab work, blood work, I love it. It has such a place. And when we can combine that with some of the genetic patterns that we see in our eyes, it can really give us a great snapshot of how to focus on our health, where to dial in a little bit better. So when we're just talking about physical ailments, it's like we're reading a level 1 book about herbal remedies. Like it's perfect. It is so helpful. I am not bashing this at all. If this is all we used iridology for, that would still be okay. But there's more we can do with it. Level 2 would be like if we're reading we're using our eyes and to read it like a self-help book, where we're addressing the physical ailments and the accompanying emotional, mental patterns. So like with our pancreas, there's often grief and sadness associated with that. So, I'm not gonna give myself away too much. And when we see liver spots, we're paying attention to, okay, there's gonna be some resentment and anger happening there. When we've got the contraction furrows, those circle lines that kind of show up. They're not like a full circle, but mostly that's letting us know that it's a very racing thoughts brain. Might have some tendencies of ADHD, especially if the lung and adrenal spots show up. Not diagnosing, just sharing some patterns that have been observed. But seeing that this thoughts of our brain going fast and then we're judging it and feeling like I can't quite get enough breath, like I can't keep up. And also I'm exhausted and my adrenals are tired and I have a lot of fear going on. We can start to be like, whoa, okay, so if my adrenals are running overdrive, I'm experiencing a lot of fear. Or if my kidneys, if I've got a liver spot in my kidneys, that's telling me I'm having a hard time, like, okay, bear with me, but the kidneys have a lot to do with forgiveness. Not that you have to forgive somebody else per se, but digesting, forgiving what has been happening to you. But then if the liver's on top of there, that's anger and resentment that is connected. And if we're not addressing the emotional component, I really believe that we are limited in what we can do. Let me go back again, because one thing, oh, this one isn't, I want to show you the tops of the eyes for one of these examples. Because at the top of the eyes is where we kind of see how much oxygen the brain is generally getting. This looks good and healthy. The blue line isn't too high. This one's kind of like medium. We can see higher. Do you see how that blueness, this is the sclera, the whites of the eyes, but the blueness kind of lets us know how far it goes, is how much lack of oxygen. That's a weird way of saying that. Let me try that again. The more blueness, the less oxygen we're getting. So it's kind of showing that, hey, I could use a little help here. And when we see this, it's like, okay, we need to get some more oxygen to your brain. Maybe that means you just need to be exercising a little bit more. Sometimes it means you need to get more circulation up there. So take some brain herbs. And it might mean you're kind of feeling a little mentally foggy. Sometimes you have a hard time thinking. But do you know what it also means? It also means you are telling yourself the phrase, I don't want to think about that. I can't think about that. That's too hard. I don't know, when people are asking you questions. And that sounds so harmless. It sounds so harmless, except for our body. Our body is this beautiful, I like to call it this little innocent child that is just here to help us. And so it's coming in and it hears these commands of, I don't know, I don't want to think about that. So what does it do? It can decrease the amount of oxygen going to our brain so we don't have to think about that. But then we come in and get mad and like, well, why isn't my brain? Why can't I think clear enough? This is so rude. I hate this. Why is my body attacking me? Our body's actually never attacking us. It's actually always going for our survival. If you have a hard time sleeping at night, sometimes people with these contraction furrows, they use up a lot of minerals. When they go to bed at night, they have restless legs. And that sounds simple enough. Like, let me just take some minerals. But do you often know why our body needs more minerals at night? To repair and rejuvenate, right? But why do we get restless legs? We get restless legs when our body takes minerals out of our bones and muscles to repair other parts, more crucial parts of our body. And then we get frustrated when we're like, oh, what is my body doing to me, giving me this restless legs? Why can't it just function properly? When really, it's actually keeping us out of survival mode. If our blood sugar gets too high at night, our body uses minerals to keep our body alkaline enough so that it can function and be normal and do some of the healing. And then we get frustrated when we don't sleep as well, or when we have restless legs, or when our liver wakes us up at 3 a.m. because it's having to deal with this blood sugar imbalance. And we're like, what the heck? What is my liver doing to me? When really, our body just literally has our back. And that's one of my favorite things to talk about in iridology, is how much our body literally has our back, and is trying to communicate with us, not just through the restless legs, but also, can you pay attention to me here? We're having an issue here. So we can read it like a self-help book like that when we're combining things. But then we can go even deeper with that, because our eyes show us even more. We can even create a symphony with the physical ailments, the mental and emotional patterns, generational patterns, the masculine and feminine energy patterns, as well as brain reflex areas. So I like to call this like a storybook that teaches via metaphor, science, and stories. Because when you see some of these stories that are showing up, for example, somebody that has that liver pigment in their kidney area, but it's on their left side, right? Left side is our feminine side, our relationship with creativity and the flow and relationship with just being, and also mother figures. And sometimes there's forgiveness issues and anger and resentment at a feminine primary figure in our life. Or sometimes we are so resentful and cannot forgive that part of ourselves that maybe in 3rd grade saw somebody else being better at art. So we decided to stop drawing altogether, because why would I even try to be good at art because somebody else is better at it than me? And so we can start to see that there's actually like so much more here. And if we're only addressing the physical, that is fine. But the reason I told you the story about the amount of hypooxygenation that shows up is because if we don't address certain thought patterns and emotions, and I know most of y'all here are big fans of like holistic health, so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. But if we're not addressing that, I can be making sure somebody is exercising, taking lots of brain herbs, but if they still say the phrase, I don't know, I don't want to think about that, I'm just putting the Band-Aid on over and over and over and over again. So it can be really helpful to see like what mental patterns are running in there. The brain reflex areas that I'm not going to get into too much tonight, but show us some really deep rooted mental patterns that have been affecting us our entire life. Dr. Pesic used to say that it's like a tuning fork that we're born with for different beliefs. And he would go, no, I'm not going to say that. But it's like a tuning fork for different mental beliefs and like realities to come to us for us to work through. I very much believe our eyes are this very, like they're very beautiful, but very spiritual map where it's showing us more than the physical ailments, but honestly, what we're also here to move through that our ancestors maybe didn't get to work through, that we're working through. And it can be this beautiful thing where we're passing on the positive energetics of having a strong constitution. I can have a strong constitution and also not beat my body up and not kind of like ignore and abuse it. But if I'm not aware of those patterns, it's really hard to fix it. When somebody first told me about strong constitutions, I'm like, yeah, sure, everybody's that way. Of course they are. But then I started talking to people who are so sensitive and I thought, what? Something wrong with me? No, we have some different genetics. And so when we can lean in and understand those differences, suddenly we're not judging ourselves so much and we can actually like see what we are really up against instead of just kind of wondering, oh, what did I get passed down? You know, does my body have a hard time mineralizing or not? This is one of my favorite examples of a woman who really took her own health into her hands. So this was an 80-year-old woman. I took her pictures back in 2021. And her story is so fun because, I mean, first of all, do you see how many pigments? This is her right eye. This is her left eye. Can you see how many pigments are in her eyes? Most of these are actually, some of them are these liver ones, and some of these are these darker orange ones that have to do more with digestion, and some of these that have to do with blood sugar. Like that is actually a lot. And also when we see pigments in this colon area inside the collarette, that's something we take much more seriously. Like that's a big deal and needs to be addressed very seriously. Sometimes Dr. Pesic would even say, like, if we're seeing this many pigments in this colon area, you might need to go like double check with your doctor that like your colon is okay. Like that, it's a very serious thing actually to see that many pigments in. But this woman, long before I ever took her pictures, she was 80 at this point. But when she was in her 20s, early 20s, late 20s, she knew her family had a history of diabetes, which it has to do with the pancreas, right? You see all these pancreas, all this. And she got really strict before she ever had kids and while she had kids about like doing basically zero sugar. Some of her kids would talk about like how they love carob stuff because she would do carob chips and cookies instead of, you know, chocolate chips. And she would use only like honey or like she was just applesauce and cookies. Because she really did not want to experience the physical effects of diabetes. If you look at her genetics, she is primed for experiencing diabetes. But that woman did not experience diabetes. She did experience, as I was talking to her in her later years, she did experience some of the emotional mental patterns that go with it, that go with the pancreas pigment, such as that sadness and grief, feeling like you're losing the sweetness of life. This woman, when she was giving advice to her kids, she was in like her 50s or 60s, but she was like, yeah, just make sure you have all your fun before you have kids, maybe before you get married, because after that, it just takes over and you won't get to have any fun. And I don't think she meant that as like a rude thing, but that was her reality. That is what she experienced. And she also was experiencing a lot of sadness and grief from that. She wanted to experience more fun, but she also thought this is how it's got to be. And that is a direct relation to these pancreas pigments showing up in her eyes. And we could even go so far as to say, like, it's in her colon, and the colon, generally speaking, but I have charts that get more specific with different portions of the colon. But when we have a pancreas pigment in our colon, that's letting us know that we're feeling really sad, and actually we're having a really hard time letting go of that. She also experienced some deep resentments in relationship to not speaking up. She had some grief and resentment at not speaking up at different things in her life. I won't share those specific details because that feels a little too intimate. But we can see as we pull in these different areas, and if you're looking, these are in the pancreas spots. We actually have 4 pancreas spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Her pancreas spots were all filled and all these pigments. And so it was really cool to see on a physical level, she was so on top of sugar like her entire life. Like, it's amazing. She really made sure her pancreas didn't have to produce too much insulin and wasn't being bombarded. And there's a part of me that wished that I could have talked to her like 20 or 30 years earlier and discussed the emotional and mental components of what's popping up in there. Because for the pancreas, the phrase that pops up the most, I just did something, didn't I? Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing. But for the pancreas, it has a lot to do with that grief. Phrases like, no one understands me, there's nothing I can do, I feel very sad, something in my life has always been missing. So we can identify some of those specific phrases. Sorry, I wanted my slides to work a little bit better, but we were basically at the end. Oh, good. We did pretty decent on time. One of my favorite ways to take the eyes is to go look at the endocrine system, which is your hormonal system, and your systems of elimination and detoxification. See which ones are genetically more weaker, see what you've been experiencing, and really tackle that. Because I mean, I focus on hormones, but we need to be detoxing in order to have our body functioning healthily, and also our hormones need us to be detoxing properly. And so this was like a snapshot. I was just throwing information at y'all. Like, thank you for keeping up. Thank you for being here. And I do want to offer you, so that you have a chance to get a little bit more personal, that if you'd like to, I've got a link for you to sign up for a free one-on-one. It will email you the instructions to take your own pictures. If you don't want to do a free one-on-one with me, this is no strings attached. This is a gift to you, so that you can actually get to have some personal application with Iridology, not just this like, oh, that's fun, thanks for that, you know. I want you to be able to take something away for you personally. And so it emails you instructions on how to take your own photos, and then we can do a 1-hour one-on-one and go over some of the things. This is something that I can coach people on for 6, 9, a year, months, depending on how intense we want to get with it. There's a lot of information out here, but I'll take the top 3 things that seem like they're screaming at you, whether it was something I talked about tonight or not, so that you can at least have that to start working with. And if you don't want to do a one-on-one, just text or email me, and I'll just email you the instructions so that you can use that for yourself. So
Rachel, that is an amazing offer. I just want to say thank you for being willing to take the time for our awesome soul family here. You are such a dedicated member of our family and sharing your gifts. And I wondered if you would allow people to maybe ask some questions. So we have a few minutes. If somebody would like to ask a question while you've got her right here, please just unmute yourself and jump in. I put the link she's talking about in the chat, so hopefully you guys are catching that. Copy and paste it in an email to yourself, or click it right now and fill it out, whatever you want to do. I would love for you to ask her a question, or do I need to ask you guys a question so that you participate? How many of you are like, whoa, kind of amazed? Is anybody just amazed? She said words I've never heard, like, yeah, things I've never heard about the eye. No one has ever talked to me about the eye. Nobody, no classes, no health class. Like, I can't think of a lesson when anyone ever went into such incredible gifts, other than, you know, the eye is like where you see the soul, whatever that little quote is. But this is so fun to look at eyes. I feel like I'm going to be staring at everybody's eyeballs. So if I meet you on the street and I stand real close, you'll know it's because of this class. I want to know what's up.
I have heard of iridology before, but I've never heard somebody explain it with so much detail, and actually make it make sense. So I really my kiddos are here too, listening, but it really amazes me to see how much you can see. And I just really appreciate the take that, you know, the body's trying to communicate things and give you information, not like something's wrong with you. So I just appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome, Sammy. It's I'm glad it was digestible. Sometimes I worry that that's a lot of information, but there's even more if you wanted it.
Oh, I do. I'm
Rachel,
excited.
Rachel, I'm clicking on the link and it's going to a page not found.
Okay,
Wait, one.
I put a link further bottom. It looks like the Calendly link got combined with another link. So there was like
Yes.
2 of them maybe. Does the one on
Here we go. Yep. The one she got in there. Rachel posted. So under the most recent link that you see in the chat, that one is working. Yeah, that was my tech glitch right there. You had a lot of, I see now what happened. They were all put together. Okay. So I will separate those links.
Mine did the same thing, and then I was able to schedule just now, so it worked.
Perfect. Glad you got that. So somebody else ask a question or make a comment while I grab a couple other things that we want to put in the chat.
Did anyone see something in one of the eyes that I showed you that you'd like me to go back so you could ask a question about, well, what's that right there? That's also an option. I must have covered all the areas you were curious about then.
Isn't that funny?
I think there's so much. Like I have gotten several new diagnoses, and so I'm still reeling a little bit, like looking at everything, going, okay, so maybe part of that's confusing is knowing where to start. Like, oh, well, there's something wrong with this, but why is there something wrong with this? Because there's something wrong with this, and why is there something wrong with this? And it just kind of bounces all around. So I'm really excited to have like the most practical place to start told to me by my own body and not by random doctors that I see for 15 minutes that don't know me or what I'm going through really. So I'm kind of excited about that part.
Yeah, it's
Which
so
is
sad. Yeah, no, it's so satisfying though, knowing where your body would like you to start. I feel like
Mhm.
for me, it brings this like grounded feeling of like, oh, we are on the same team. And
Yeah.
there's even a way to apply some of this information to see like what's your way that you would get sick the easiest, like what leads you to getting sick. And there's some people where like stress is, and it seems like, of course, stress makes everybody get sick, sure, whatever. But there's some people where their road, where their body is most sensitive to, that leads to them getting sick the quickest, is not stress. Now, me and my sister, we joke with each other because stress is 100%. Like if I'm stressed, that's just what leads it to it. Every time that I get sick, I look back and be like, oh yeah, I was doing too much, pushing my body. Oops. But that's such a strong constitution thing with somebody who can be a little bit more sensitive to that stress, whereas somebody else, it's really their lymphatic system. And sometimes it's the dietary things. Maybe it's sugar, maybe it's dairy. It's not that for everyone. Sometimes it's wheat. But anyways, sorry, I just got excited because I very much agree with that, Sammy, that we can just listen, we can just do what our body is asking us to do. And we actually see so many results that way. It's actually really exciting.
I apologize for joining late, but is there anything specific besides spots to do with colors or like the color of the rings around your eyes or anything like that that means anything?
Oh, good question. The color of the rings around your eyes is really just more of your eye color. There's that circle around, you've got your pupil, and then we've got the kind of like wiggly line called the collarette. So some of the coloring around that tells us information, but that's more information about the colon or the lymphatic system. Whereas the other rings, the ones that I called contraction furrows, that kind of like one of those blue eyes had like 5 layers of them. That the coloring on that is just the pigments of the eyes in general. That doesn't vary per se with the contraction furrows, but it gives us insight in a different way if there's pigments there or some of that lymphatic drainage has like accumulated over time. So that's what it would kind of give us more information about.
Thank you, Rachel.
Of course.
Hey, last call. Any comment or question?
I guess my question is, if there is something like, say, lymphatic, do you then have suggestions for that person to be able to correct or address that?
Yes, definitely. Some of my top ones for that are making sure we're dry skin brushing, making sure you're getting in some sort of movement a day, jumping on a trampoline. Our body is the pump for our lymphatic system. So dry skin brushing kind of opens up our lymphatic centers and lets things come out through the skin a little bit better. But we want to make sure we are moving because our lymphatic system does not pump like it doesn't pump itself. Movement is what pumps us. Even if you're just doing arm circles, that in itself can support it. And then seeing if there's anything, usually I'm checking to see if there's a lot of like dairy or sugar intake because that can clog it up a little bit if it's been clogged for a while. Not that I'm saying you have to stay off dairy your whole life, but my lymphatic system got a little unclogged and then I could handle dairy a little better. There's some herbs that can support that as well, but those are just some of the top ones on the top of my head. Juicing can help that. Fruit is really good at helping our lymphatic system move through. So
Thank you so much. In addition to this topic, some of the offerings that Rachel has, she does online one-on-one sessions with clients. She also will do women's group cycle coaching. Do you want to tell us what that is?
oh yeah, that is where women as a group get together and there's a combination of teaching about the cycle. Sometimes it's like how insulin is affecting our sex hormones. Other times it's how to actually take care of ourselves in the menstrual phase, what things we need to pay attention to so we're not too grumpy and having PMS. Just going into all of that. We do it personalized by questions, but then also one of the beautiful things about having it in a group is you get to hear what other women are experiencing and we kind of phrase it differently. And as you notice more and bring more awareness, suddenly you're getting to understand what your body's doing. And sometimes you'll hear it through another woman's phrasing of what she's experiencing, like in the positive. You're like, whoa, I didn't realize that my body did do that. And so I mean, the one-on-one coaching is so great, but when I have a one-on-one client, I'm often saying, okay, one-on-one and you're in the group because you need to talk. We need to talk about it as a community.
We do. We need to have those conversations. This is one of my favorite things about Rachel's passions. Like I said in her intro, she dives into the places of women's life and health that are often dismissed. And just the very beginning conversation you could have with her about menstrual cycles will blow your mind. Like I was in my 40s before I had a conversation with Rachel about menstrual cycles, and I should have been having that conversation at 12 years old. All of the things and the more that you learn through this passionate woman's knowledge bank, the more I have come to love and appreciate and be excited about and honor the sacred body that I have. Whereas the lack of information and led to a lack of appreciation and more of just a frustration. I don't know about you women, but I truly was one that would go into denial, like finish my cycle and put it away in my memory bank. So every month when it shows up, I was kind of surprised, like, you again? Oh, dang it, I have to do this again. And like every time it was like starting over. But the connection to the cycle, when you understand it, you can begin to wrap your life around a rhythm and cycle that lives in an honor and flow of what your body's naturally doing. And this helps us to shift out of just pushing through and always trying to live life like a robot, like every day, 9 to 5, every day, do this. When the body's saying, no, there's times to hibernate. No, there's times when you should plan to create. Like some days you're in creative modes, some days you're in cleansing mode, and you should plan to deep clean your house on this day. Like so much fun stuff to talk about. So I hope that you'll see in the chat, grab your one-on-one consultation, follow her on Instagram or Facebook, check out her website, let her know if she can do anything to help you. And I just want to thank you, Rachel, always for your time and for being willing to teach. And she's one of our fabulous presenters at Yin on Fire. So if you're interested in more, be at Yin on Fire October 2nd through the 5th. And you can go to yinonfire.org if you don't have your tickets. We're just 52 days away. And all of our presenters are fabulous and intriguing like Rachel. And so you want to get on there, start reading through on the website we call them our soul guides. So you can get acquainted and find out what classes you're going to want to attend when you're there. before we close, I want to tell you next week, next Monday night, Family Soul Evening, is Megan Welch. Listen to this. The title, Sacred Orgasm. Yep, we're going there. Enjoying life to the fullest point of peak pleasure in all that we do, from the mundane tasks of doing the dishes to the necessary sexual healing that most of us need. And Megan says this is just a small part of the topic that she's going to cover. So who's in next week? You want to have a group energetic orgasm, be here at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And Anne, for you, that's 9 p.m. Eastern. We want to thank Anne all the way from New Jersey for staying up so late to be with us. Thanks, everybody, and have a great week.